Welcome to Impostrix Podcast, where we affirm the lived experiences of professionals of color who navigate imposter syndrome and racial toxicity at work. The tools that you learn here will help you confidently address racial toxicity at work, put that imposter syndrome to the side, stand in your power, and resist racial gaslighting. I'm your host, Whitney Knox Lee, a Black mother to Black boy children, a civil rights attorney, and an anti-racism educator and trainer. If this is your first time listening, welcome. We're glad you're here. Episodes are published every week. Make sure you go back and listen to our past episodes. All right, here we go. Welcome back to Impostrix Podcast. I am here today with Kiara, who is a mental health coach and owner of New You Psychology, licensed therapist. I'm going to have you introduce yourself. Kiara, go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. First of all, it's an honor to be here with you, and I'm excited about our conversation today. Yes, my name is Kiara Luna, and I am a licensed mental health therapist in New York State and also Florida. I own a virtual group practice called New You Psychotherapy, and we also provide mental health coaching and support for the clients who may need and benefit from it. I am also a public speaker. I am a best-selling author of my very first book, Becoming a New You. Let's see, what else do I do? I'm a mom. I'm a mom of two boys, two handsome boys. They are 12 and 7. And I'm also a wife. And I'm all of the things, I'm a woman that is a woman of faith. I am very spiritual, and maybe not the ways that people may kind of think about it, because I know that the minute that you say you're spiritual, a lot of people think like, oh, so what religion do you practice? So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. So what's your racial identity?
Yeah, I'm Dominican.
Awesome.
Dominican, yeah.
And you're clearly from New York, or?
Absolutely, yes. I'm from New York. New York City, baby, from the Bronx.
Because I can hear it in the accent. During our pre-recording conversation, you were breaking down for me the difference between mental health coaching and therapy. And I would really love for you to talk to us about coaching versus therapy, because I'm someone who has been involved with therapy. I've been benefiting from therapy for all of my adult life. And coaching has only recently become a part of my life. And I don't do mental health coaching, I do career coaching. And it's been wildly helpful. And so I want to hear from you about, like, what is this mental health coaching, and why would somebody decide to do mental health coaching instead of, or maybe alongside with, therapy?
Yeah, that's a great question. Mental health coaching is focusing on the present issues, on the issues that are happening today and the goals that you want to set for yourself for the future, right? Whereas therapy, we are addressing present issues, but we are also navigating and working through your past, right? And some of the incidents that might have occurred that has led you to feel the way that you do today. And another specific difference also is that with therapy, we are actually focusing on diagnosing and working with symptoms, right? Whereas with coaching, we're really not focusing on that. It's more on life skills and also different areas of your life. And it's more focused on personal growth and, the different areas of our lives, like finances, business, and also life. I've met a lot of life coaching coaches that work with a lot of people who are just trying to figure out what are some of the things that they want to do in their lives, and sometimes they need something that's more direct, right? And coaching can be very direct, whereas therapy, we use a different technique or different models to really meet your needs and work with an umbrella of things. So like coaching can also be very specific, whereas therapy, sometimes you can come in today and you want to vent about something that happened this week that has nothing to do with what we've been working on per se.
So that's really interesting to me, because I think as far as like healing goes, like I said, I've been utilizing therapy, but I think one of the challenges that I have, like, long term with therapy, is that I get taken off track because stuff is happening in life today. And so although I may have something, and really exactly what you described, I may have some underlying stuff that I'm trying to work on. But today work did something and I can't even see past whatever I'm experiencing at work. And so I'm spending my entire therapy session on that. And, sometimes we are able to tie it back to like the underlying stuff, but other times it feels more of just like a help me process, help me navigate what I'm going to do next, like right now. And so it sounds like that's a good opportunity for coaching.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I noticed is that some people can still have those conversations with their therapist, because at the end of the day, if you have some level of concrete needs, there's no way that we're going to be speaking about, getting out of bed if your lights are off, you know what I mean? Or if, you're having financial difficulties. It's really difficult to really be able to work through some of those symptoms that you may be experiencing from anxiety or depression if your main concern right now is paying your next bill. So a lot of the work that it is also done within the therapeutic sessions, depending on the therapist, of course, and their approach, is also helping them navigate their life and budgeting and like the simple things that sometimes we don't think about. And then with coaching, I feel like coaching is very more like to the point and concrete, and it's like, okay, this is the type of coach that I am. So like, I'm a business coach. So this is all we're going to talk about. And this is like the whole plan already planned out, right? For the next 4 weeks or the next 3 months or the next 6 months. These are your modules. This is what you have to go through. Whereas for us as therapists, we have a plan with you and we know what we want to work on, but we leave room for whatever else may come up, because at the end of the day, this is your space and you get to dictate, what you want to address that day.
Again, I'm just so grateful to have this conversation, because I learn a lot when I talk to you about coaching. And for me, it really opens up a new possibility as far as healing tools and things that I can do, because I've been so heavy on therapy. But I heard somebody say recently, like, I couldn't wait for the benefit of therapy, and that's something that I can relate to of sometimes having really acute, what feel like to me very acute issues or concerns or blocks, that yes, I'm going to therapy, I'm working it out, but like I need something to help me get through this next week. I need tools. Give me the homework, give me the coach's homework, so that I'm just feeling like I'm addressing my more immediate concern.
Right. Yes. And I hearing you say that, right, it's like, oh my God, it's yes. Because the honest truth is that I'm not in the business to not help my clients feel better as soon as possible. Right. So for me, I want to learn your story. I want to learn, who has made you who you are today. I want to learn your experiences. I want to know your struggles. And then we want to also work on what are some of the tools that you can benefit from, from the minute you walk in. What can you walk away with so you can start healing and you can start implementing some of those skills for you to start, perhaps navigating relationships better, let's say, or navigating the relationship that you have with your own self better, So I think it's always depending on the approach of each therapist, because we are also different. And same with, of course, coaches. They're also different as well. But I agree with you that sometimes we can be very impatient with ourselves when it comes to achieving our goals or wanting to work towards something. And we find that therapy can sometimes take time. But what I would always say is that healing takes time. It's a whole journey. And in order for us to be able to achieve the things that we want to achieve, we first have to address those underlying core values or beliefs that we may have that we are not even aware of. So we're always going to kind of end up in the same place because we have not addressed, that past trauma perhaps that is there in my subconscious mind, and I have no idea what it is, but I keep on getting stuck. I pay coaches, I do this, I do that, and I'm still not getting the results or the outcome that I want. So why? And that's when I tell people right, like we're repeating the same cycles over and over again because there's been a part of you that you have not yet met, So how can you meet that person first, meet that part of who you are first, to get to know what is keeping you stuck, and then we can rewire that and, quantum leap to whatever it is that you want to go.
Quantum leap. Give me some
Yeah.
of that quantum leaping.
Yes.
You brought up this idea or this reality that some of us, arguably all of us, have these past traumas. And what I want to talk about is, as folks of color, as professionals of color, we're trying to embrace our full selves.
Yeah.
All of our blackness, our Dominicanness, our whateverness, and also show up to these workplaces in ways that we will be accepted and we will be setting ourselves up for success.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finding for myself, some of the time, I'm still feeling blocked by some of these beliefs that really for me show up as internalized racism or internalized oppression, maybe from messaging that I've, received throughout my life. Can you talk about the role that our childhood traumas impact how we now are able to show up in the workplace, and maybe what we're dealing with, some of the things that we have to overcome in order to move forward?
Yeah. So first, let me say that from 0 to 6 years old, we were walking basically in a hypnotic state, meaning that everything that was being said around us, everything that we heard our parents, everything that we witnessed, everything that we saw was being imprinted into our subconscious mind. Okay, so meaning that we had no control then to accept or reject information or accept it as true, right? The only thing that we were able to do during those ages was really kind of give meaning to whatever it is that we were witnessing. So, if my mom, for example, would yell at me every time I don't know, I asked her for something, my automatic thing would be to kind of give meaning to that and saying something that would make me still love my mom, right? So what that means is that I'm going to now mold myself in a certain way where my mom would not yell at me for every time that I ask for that thing, right? So we're molding ourselves throughout the childhood history of our lives to fit into the world of our parents or caretakers. Now, because we were accepting all of this information as truth, a lot of us heard, you have to work to get what you want. If you want to get a promotion at work, remember that you're Black. Remember that you are Afro Latina. So you have to, really prove yourself to these people. Now, in addition to that, we also were experiencing in our own home not feeling good enough, for example, right? So we would come home with a 80 from an assignment, and our parents would say like, well, why don't you get an 85? We would bring next time the 85, and it'll be like, well, you can do better, let's do 90. And there was never a time to congratulate us or be happy or celebrate us for, hey, like, we're actually passing anyway, right? Like, we're doing good. So and our parents thought that that's the way that they were going to be motivating us and pushing us to do better and be better. But because we grew up perhaps with the messaging that we have to do more, that we have to be perfect almost, right? That's the underlying messaging we give ourselves, is that, oh, I have to be perfect. Okay, great. So now I'm super hypercritical, against myself, because if I don't get to excel in the ways that I think it's appropriate, right, then it's not good enough. Then I wasn't perfect enough. So because we grow up with these messaging, then we show up in the work environment and we're really also trying to be who we are not, right? So we're not showing up as our authentic selves because we know that my authentic self is not accepted. It wasn't even accepted when I was a kid, So subconsciously, we already are showing up masking and trying to fit into the world. Remember that in some ways, our whole lives, we have been trying to fit in. We were trying to mold ourselves to fit into our to our childhood homes, right, into our caretakers' world. Then we continue to grow, and now we go into school, and now in school we're also trying to fit in. So we're molding ourselves again. So we kind of have been brainwashed in a way, right? In a way to kind of like, oh, every stage that I go, everywhere that I go, I have to mold myself to fit into other people's worlds. So now this shows up, and at work.
I wanted to just take one step back for a second, because one of the things that I'm hearing from you is that, and I don't know if trauma is the right word. I don't know what it is, but these experiences that we have had as children, taking on, the values and the way of being that our parents want for us, because they're trying to set us up for success, not because they're trying to harm us.
Right.
That these can be experiences that then can determine what some of our limiting beliefs are. Is that right?
Yes.
Because what's interesting to me is that so often when I'm thinking about limiting beliefs, I'm thinking about, quote, trauma. And I'm thinking about, like, in other words, some bad thing that has happened. And because of that bad thing, I am triggered, and being triggered is bad. And then it kind of goes, the story goes from there. But what I'm hearing from you isn't that, those situations happen, right, but so does just, the beliefs that we grow up with that are well-intentioned for us, but that are specific to us in some circumstances because of our racial, ethnic, cultural, gender identity, also impact how we now show up. Because the example that you used was asking for things. And if, a parent yells at you or is maybe even frustrated because you're asking for things. And I think about myself, we're both parents, and my sons, at the end of a long day, like, can you stop asking me why? Can you stop asking, and I really struggle with staying calm and with staying patient at 7:30 on a Wednesday night, and so what I'm hearing from you is that even like our interactions then, that our children are picking up from us, okay, at this time of the day, if I'm asking for this thing or, my needs, I'm asking for my needs to get met, essentially, and I feel like a burden.
Yes.
And so if that's the message that that children are getting day in and day out, and I'm not saying that that's how I am day in and day out, although my kids might say something different. I'm trying not to set myself up to feel like I'm traumatizing my children, but like, that these messages then translate into maybe later a feeling of I can't ask for help because I am a burden. It's a burden to ask for help.
Yeah. That's really good insight and interpretation. And also is that, it's I'm too much, or every child is going to interpret it in their own way. And one of the things that I tell my parents when we're discussing childhood trauma, when we're discussing their own, and like, oh my God, how am I, damaging, they say, are my kids. And I tell them, we just have to accept that regardless of how great of parents we are, they're still going to be messed up. Like, we just gotta accept it. You just have to accept it, and not messed up in the way where, they're going to not be able to emotionally regulate. Because that is one of the ways that that, okay, I wonder how come I can't, regulate my emotions. And sometimes it's because our parents never allowed us to. They never taught us how to. The minute that you would say I'm upset, they'll be like, you have no reason to be angry. Why are you angry? Like, what? So we learn now that, okay, so I'm not supposed to experience emotions unless they are happy emotions. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to turn that off, and I'm not going to experience negative emotions or emotions that make me feel bad, right? That's how a kid would process that. And now the kid grows up not acknowledging their low frequency emotions. And now at home, the kid is happy-go-lucky, but now this either turns a person who is a toxic positive person or a person who gets really angry easily.
Can I just stop? Did you say toxic positive person?
Yeah.
I love that. Can I snap for that? That is so funny. I've never heard somebody described like that, but I think you listening, y'all know somebody who toxic positive. We don't even need Kiara to explain to us what that is. We know somebody.
Yes. And sometimes that can be us, you know?
Yes.
Sometimes that can be us because we may be feeling so good, you know, and you have a friend that is telling you about something and you want that friend to feel good too, you know? So you'll be like, girl, don't worry. Things are going to get better. And, da, da, da. And then what we don't think about is that we are dismissing her whole, you know, experience and feeling, you know? So yeah, so I always say, listen, children, we do the best we can, and I think that as parents now, the parents nowadays also are working so hard to be better and to grow as people. I don't think that the level of consciousness that we have today is definitely not the level of consciousness that, you know, our parents perhaps had or our grandparents had. You know, there's so much awareness and so much hype now about being better and like growing and personally being better, you know, and being better for your kids and being better wives and better husbands and better, you know. So like, I think that because we are in a stage of our lives right now where we are pro mental health, pro coaching, pro being better, we are providing our children with a better opportunity to be able to be healthier adults when they are, you know, grown-ups, and not even healthier adults but healthier children. You know, they know they have the space to be able to share how they feel. And, you know, again, sometimes it can be really good. And even when you give your children that space, because I have clients that I work with that grew up with very emotional intelligent parents who provided them with the space to express themselves and you know, choose, and shared power dynamic in the home. But now they struggle to be able to navigate people who are not able to meet that for them. People who are highly critical, they are very sensitive to criticism because they were never taught how to navigate that. So there always needs to be a balance.
Wow. So before I had cut you off, you were starting to talk about the limiting beliefs and how they show up at work. So can you give us an example? You've already talked about a couple of examples. Yes. We've talked about, you know, feeling like we're a burden. We've talked about the toxic positivity. What are other limiting belief narratives that we might experience as we are now adults and going into the workplace as a result of maybe some of the messaging that we received from our parents who were doing their best,
right?
But also just trying to raise young people of color who were to survive, right, and to thrive. Like they, and I think the other thing that's important for me to remember is that a lot of our parents' generation didn't have an example.
Yeah.
You know, just like we don't necessarily have, like each generation is dealing with something a little bit different. It's dealing with a different sort of consciousness.
Yeah.
And like for my parents, their parents had just migrated to Chicago and Philadelphia from the South as part of the Great Migration. It was survival. It was, okay, we're in the North now. We're not going to be so apparently affected by Jim Crow. We are, we moved up here for opportunity. Our role as parents is to work hard and provide for our family because we are now in this space of opportunity. And so that was like my grandparents, you know, that's, I'm projecting, but I feel like that was our grandparents' reality as they raised our parents.
Right.
And then my parents specifically moved from the Midwest and the East Coast to Seattle, Washington. They left their families. They started careers and now they're trying to raise little Black children in a white city without Black people, you know? Tough. And so thinking about what the message that they needed to tell us in order for us to be, you know, successful, quote unquote, because isn't that what we care about? Like we want our kids to be better, do better,
exactly,
enjoy life more, you know, have a better experience than we do in our lives. Right. So what are other limiting beliefs that we show up to at work?
Yeah, and I loved how you broke that down because I think it's so important also to remember that we are all raising our kids based on our own experiences, you know? So if we struggled in a certain area of our lives, we're going to communicate that to our kids. We're going to let them know like, hey, look, you have to work a little harder because that wasn't my experience, you know? So I love that you broke it down that way. Another limiting belief that can come up and show up at work is I'm inadequate, you know, not good enough, right? And those show up in so many different ways because there can be this new opportunity going on at work, and you may just cancel yourself out because you don't believe that you can do it. You don't believe that you deserve it. You don't believe that you're good enough to get it, or you don't believe like you're adequate to get it, So this is how the limiting beliefs really stay in our way to get the goals or achieve the things that we want in life, because you might be perfect for that job, but you have convinced yourself so much that you're not, that you really believe that you're not, you know and it doesn't matter how many people tell you that, oh my goodness, Whitney, you're perfect for that job, like go for it. If you don't believe it internally, you're not going to go for it. You're going to tell them, no, there's better people for it. Like, look, so and so is better, she's done this and she's always here on time. You find all of the excuses in the world to cancel yourself out. One of the things that I always tell my clients, Whitney, is your external world is a reflection of your internal world. What you tell yourself is what you end up seeing in your 3D world, So sometimes we are so hard on ourselves in certain areas of our lives, like at work, I'm not going to get that right. And then you don't get it right. So it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, But another one could also be, I must be in control, at work, but then like we become so resentful because we feel like we're doing it all by ourselves. But honestly, we're not asking for help, but then we are upset because no one is offering help, but people has offered help and you have rejected it before. So now no one asks you, if you need help. But this is because I have this tendency of wanting to be in control and wanting everything to be so perfect that I only believe that I'm the only one who can do everything. So we put like this extra pressure on ourselves at work. And then also everyone relies on me because they see me as the strong person who can do everything. So everyone is asking you to get the job done because they trust you and they believe that you can do it. And you're not saying that, hey, this is a little bit too much now.
So what somebody that holds that type of belief, what might their childhood, what might they have experienced in that 0 to 6 or older?
And the I must be in control.
Mm-hmm.
So part of it, so it can be so many different experiences. One that may come to mind would be witnessing a mom or a dad who always had to be the one doing certain tasks, right? So like if you hear your mom always say like, I'm the only one who can do this, or I'm, no one helps me, I must always do everything. Those are messaging that you can start to interpret like, oh, okay, so I think it's important for you to do everything. Another one might be not feeling like you as a child had any control, right? Feeling powerless. So sometimes feeling powerless in the home. So it's when we think about children and children who bully at school, right? More often than not, those children are experiencing bullying at home. Their parents are calling them names. Their parents are speaking to them in a very disrespectful way. So in that moment, right, that child feels powerless. That child feels like there's nothing I can do to be in control. Like there's nothing I'm in control of. And then when they go to school, there they feel in control. There they feel in power because now I have to do this to feel like I can also be in control. So those are some of the experiences that come to mind right now.
Okay, so what do we do?
Okay, Karen, so what do we do to
Yeah, because it's like, I know I hear myself in some of these examples, and I know pre-recording, I was talking about some things that I'm going through, and you're saying, yep, those are the self-limiting beliefs. And it's like, whew, okay, so like I'm accepting that this is just my reality. So how do the language that I believe you used is like rewiring our minds.
Yeah.
How do I do that so that I am letting go of these beliefs, still accepting my experience as a child, accepting my parents' experience as my parents, and moving forward?
Right. Yes. Yeah. So I'm all about moving forward. I'm all about identifying them and getting to work. Right. So I'm gonna give you 3 steps. First, to identify these beliefs. Right. You first want to write down everything you believe generally, and you can group them. You can group them under health. You can group them under finances, relationships, and all of those things. Like you group them, right? So you put, okay, what do I believe about the relationships in my life? About how they are for me, about how I show up, about how they show up, right? What do I believe about my finances, about money? What relationship do I have with money? What do I believe about it? And same things, you do it with everything else, right? Then what you want to do is you want to write down the areas that you feel challenged in. So what areas do I typically get triggered by? And what are things that that I may hear people say or people talk to me about that I may be triggered by. And then I want to ask myself why. Because asking yourself why is what's going to help you to get to that underlying limiting belief, underlying cause that may be resulting in you getting triggered by that. And then we want to identify and assess our behaviors, So we want to be so intentional about, okay, I was triggered by this. How did I behave? And then in what ways, what happened that I might have reacted in a toxic way? Because let's be real, y'all. We be very toxic sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We be very toxic. So it's really important to identify, to be honest with yourself. No one can be more honest than you can be with yourself. But you first have to start being honest with yourself. Sometimes we don't want to be honest with ourselves because it's scary to be honest with ourselves. It means that I'm going to have to start holding myself accountable for some things that I might not have, I don't want to. So holding yourself accountable for all of these behaviors is so important. When you start holding yourself accountable for knowing that you have the choice to control your thoughts, to control your feelings, you're unstoppable. You are unstoppable because you know that you can then create the life that you want to live and overcome the traumatic incidents that had happened. So those are 3 tools: writing down your neural beliefs just so you know what they are, what it is that you believe in, writing down the areas that you're challenged in, and then assessing your behaviors. So this way you know how it is that you behave based on all of those beliefs and behaviors that you have.
And then is it that knowledge that really helps us to start to do things differently?
Yes, because we cannot change what we don't know. That's my thing. If I don't know, if I'm ignorant to this thing in my life, then I won't be able to make the necessary changes to do better because I don't know it. But now that if I know what it is and I know what it looks like, I know that when I do that or when I think that, it's going to make me feel this and it's going to make me behave like this. So we want to make sure that we start from the root. What is it that I'm thinking? What is it? Our beliefs are our thoughts. A thought that I had over and over again becomes a belief. One example that I like to give, Whitney, is, if I were to tell you, Whitney, no, your name is not Whitney, your name is Wanda, what would you tell me?
No, it ain't.
Right. And I would be like, no, like, Whitney, look, I can show you another birth certificate. And it says Wanda. Like, it's just all of your information. It says Wanda. This is your name. You would still be like, yeah, no, it's Whitney, right? And I give that example because I want to explain now, going into, the things that we can do to rewire our subconscious mind. Mm-hmm. The only reason you believe that your name is Whitney is because people called you Whitney your whole entire life over and over again. Mm. You weren't born saying, my name is Whitney. No, You didn't even know your name was Whitney, right? You were 1 month, you were 1 day, you didn't know that was your name. Your parents gave you this name, right? And then your parents and everyone else started calling you by your name, Whitney.
Right.
At some point, maybe 3-4 months is when we start responding to our name, maybe. I don't remember anymore, but I think it's 3-4 months. So 3-4 months, you start to respond to your name. And the only reason for that, once again, is because it was a repetition. Mm-hmm. You heard it so often that you started questioning yourself and be like, oh, wait, so that must be me. Mm-hmm. That's the same thing with limiting beliefs. If I'm constantly receiving a messaging of, oh my God, why don't you get an 80? Why don't you get a 90? Why don't you get a 100? At some point, I'm going to then believe that everything that I do is not enough in this home. Mm-hmm. Because it's a repetition. So one of the things that I recommend for my clients, one of the tools is positive self-talk and affirmation. Everything we say is an affirmation. So let's not get that twisted, because people be like, what do you mean affirmations? Oh my God, this is a woo-woo thing. What do you mean? No, affirmations really work. And if you think about it, everything we say is an affirmation. If you think about your past, and you think about the things that you have achieved today, you would say, yeah, well, I went to school. Maybe I got, my grad degree. And I would ask you, well, did you believe that you were going to do that? You would tell me, yeah, I knew for sure I was going to do it. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the outcome that you got, which was graduating, right? Because you believed that you would do it, and you would tell yourself so much that, oh, I'm getting this. I'm pretty sure you went through frustrations, sleepless nights, and all of the struggles that we go through, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, you had a goal in mind, and you were dedicated, and you were disciplined in achieving that goal no matter what, right? So that's how we overcome those limiting beliefs. It's by repetition of whatever it is that we want that outcome to be and believe. So if I want to, let's say, feel that I am a lovable person, for example, I'm going to start speaking as if I'm already a lovable person, because the belief comes after. So people feel like I have to see it to believe it. I'm like, nope, you have to believe it to see it. Because our subconscious mind, our eyes mind, filters out the information based on what we believe in. So if I believe I'm good enough, that's all I'm going to see. If I believe that I'm not good enough, that's all I'm going to see. Because our brain can only take so much information.
So like what just clicked for me is that is the messaging that white people get. That belief, and as children, that they can do and deserve everything.
Yeah.
The messaging that we get as folks of color is you have to work twice as hard to get the thing. You might deserve the thing, but you have to work twice as hard to get it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I heard is around the repetition, and that like I believe in affirmations, and sometimes, oftentimes, that helps for that moment, but that doesn't mean that necessarily helps long term. And so, like with goal setting, if I am going to set a goal, then I am doing this ongoing, really reflection of this is where I'm going to be. This is my goal. This is how in 2028, this is what's going to be happening in my life. And this is how it's going to happen. So then my feet can start doing the things that my mouth is saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how I treat affirmations, is as goals. Mm-hmm. So I don't affirm, well, I affirm all day, right? But I don't affirm what I want in the future tense. And that's what I teach my clients, is that no, whatever you want, you already have, but you have to believe you have it in order for your body to now start moving in ways to get that for you. So if I want certain job position, right, or I want to change my job, I'm already going to move in ways and feel in ways that I already have that in my eyes, mind. And that's where visualization comes in, which is another great technique, because our imagination is so powerful. It's so powerful. It's more about like, what is it that we're imagining, though? Because everything you think about, everything you imagine kind of comes to your reality, because our thoughts also impact what we picture. So if I want a job, if I want to be the director, I'm going to already feel like I am. I'm going to behave like I'm the director. I'm going to feel like I'm the director. And I'm going to be so grateful for already having that in my life. Because I don't have to have it to feel it. Right? I can feel it based on what a picture that I'm drawing in my imagination. So perhaps I'm envisioning an office, with my, I don't know, with the door, with the, what do you call that? Well, the
plaque, like the little placard that has,
Yes, I would envision that. I'll describe that picture so perfectly that there's no way that I'm not going to feel like that is. I mean, if you think about it, when we meditate, when we visualize, you start smiling, like you start like feeling that thing, right? And that's exactly where we need to go each time, so it can come into our reality. So a lot of the work that I also do with my clients, and I tell them to really practice this, is visualization along with the affirmation. So I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm the director of this agency. I'm getting paid this amount of money. I am so excited that now my dream has come true. And you see, I'm saying this, I'm smiling, and that's not even my goal, but I'm smiling because I'm feeling it, and it feels good to say it, So whatever it is that I want in an affirmation way, I'm going to say that as is already done, as it already happened. And then I'm going to start moving, because that's how it works, you guys. Right. Okay. Remember that our thoughts impact our feelings impact our behaviors. So if your thought is, I am so happy and grateful that now I'm the director of this agency, my feeling is going to be what? Gratitude is going to feel. I'm going to feel content, happy, at peace. I'm going to walk like I already got this, And then what comes after the emotions? Well, the behavior. So I'm going to start acting and feeling and behaving like I'm already that person. And then what comes after that? Well, the outcome, the result, you getting your director position.
Yeah. I when you first started talking about visualization, you talked about the placard, and what immediately came to mind for me was that my first attorney job, I walk in, maybe my second week on the office, because they had ordered me my placard on my door. And for me, that was a moment of like, wow, like, yes, I did it. Like, that was a defining moment. I took a picture, I sent it to people.
Yeah.
And then when I was a law assistant until I passed the bar, and then when I passed the bar, my title was staff attorney. I took a picture of the staff attorney placard. So yeah, I can really see how visualizing that, just being on the other side of like experiencing how affirming it felt.
Yeah.
To have to be in the position where I had my first placard that had the professional title that I had been working for.
Yeah.
You know, that was, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. We talked about today how our childhood experiences can impact what our limiting beliefs are, and then how those limiting beliefs might impact how we're showing up at work or in other places of our lives.
Yeah.
And then you gave us some tools for identifying the limiting beliefs and then starting to do something different. And so you talked about writing a list of what your beliefs are in these categories,
Right.
identifying the belief and identifying, I can't read my handwriting, behaviors.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes,
So
you
writing the
got
list,
it.
and from there, starting to use the tools of affirmations and present day affirmations.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
future
Right.
affirmations.
Yeah. Because our subconscious mind doesn't understand future. Like, it doesn't, that cannot sink in because it lives now in the here and now and in the moment. It's now, you know? So if I start painting a picture of this happening now and I'm feeling that feeling of this happening now, my subconscious mind is going to think that, oh, this is happening now. And that's what we want. That's what we want our subconscious mind to feel and think. So every time I have a goal, listen, I'll share that I'm blown away by the fact that I am owner of a group practice right now. You know, I'm blown away by that because I'm the same person who worked in a 9-to-5 for over a decade, a person who grew up in a home where a 9-to-5 was the way, a person who grew up in a home where my dad had a business, but then it failed. So I thought like, oh, okay, being an entrepreneur is hard. That's not for me. So here I am being this person just 3 years ago saying like, well, is this actually something that I can do? I don't think so. I'm so scared. You know, what if, you know, how am I going to pay bills? Like, what if I don't get this consistent paycheck? That is scary to me, you know, because that's not something that I grew up around, you know.
Ooh, girl. And isn't it the message that we grow up with that you need consistent income?
Need consistency. You need stability. That's the only thing that can give you stability. Yes. So, you know, so here I am, you know, back in 2021, battling back and forth with these thoughts in myself and like, but I don't want to work anymore 9-to-5. Like it's so heavy. It's not 9-to-5, it's 9-to-9. It's all the time working and being on. And I remember feeling so overwhelmed. So I was like, yo, something got to change, you know? And then I find out about private practice and I'm like, wait a minute. What you're telling me is, what you're telling me is that I can do something that passions me so much and not have to work, you know, all the hours that I work. But then again, the limiting beliefs came in like, Kiara, no, like you can't do that. That you need stability. You know,
you got kids.
You need the benefits. You need like all of these things. So I really needed to stop and really start writing those beliefs down. So exactly the steps that I'm telling you guys to do, I do with myself all the time because the bigger you play, the bigger limiting beliefs you're going to face. Let's keep it real. Limiting beliefs are not going to go anywhere. They're going to be here with us every step, every stage, every goal that we set for ourselves. They're going to be here with us. So it's all about writing these down. Okay. The work is a lifelong work. Okay. Writing these beliefs down, identifying them. And then once I did that for myself, I was like, oh, wait a minute. This is such a lie. All of these, how am I here lying? I'm lying to myself. I haven't tried this. I don't know if I'm going to fail, like I'm saying. And you know
Right.
what? If I fail, guess what? I'll go back to a 9 to 5. Like what? Like
Oh my
you know what I
goodness.
mean? So this is part of the reason why I'm so passionate about like speaking about childhood trauma, speaking about limiting beliefs, speaking about how to rewire them, because I know it's possible. Because I've helped so many of my clients get what they want as well. Because I've walked them through this, you know, and if you're disciplined and if you hold yourself accountable and if you're real with yourself, you're going to get everything you want. You are going to get everything you want, because that's just a universal law. You know, we just have to ask to be able to receive it, and we have to be able to receive it too. We have to be ready to receive it, you know, because sometimes we say we want all these things, but how are you ready to receive all these things? You're saying you want this director job position, but how are you preparing yourself to have that? You know, how are you making space in your life to get the things that you want? Are you making space to get the things that you want? Because, you know, I can tell you all the time, I'm like, yeah, I want to go to the gym. And I haven't made it a goal, you know. Let me be real with y'all.
Not the gym. Why is she going to talk about the gym? Because now all of us are like,
Let me be real with y'all. I'm there with y'all, you know. I'm there with you. I tell myself all the time, I'm gonna start working out. But you know, I have stopped doing that, because what I realized is that I'm lying to myself, and I don't like liars.
And doesn't it make you feel horrible? Because I stopped telling myself this too, because I'm like, no, this is setting myself up. I don't want to have this extra guilt. Right. Like I already got real life problems. I don't want to have the extra guilt that I'm making myself have, because I'm telling myself I'm going to go to the gym and then I don't go.
Right. So now I'm like, you know what, Kiara, when you're ready to make the decision the day of, then you say that. If you're not going today to the gym, stop saying that you're going to go to the gym. We're wasting saliva here. Be real with yourself, you know, because the way we treat ourselves is the way that other people are going to treat us. So if I don't like people lying to me, I'm not going to be lying to myself. Like, what are we doing? So, yeah, a lot of the tools that I shared with you all are the tools that I use with myself on a constant basis. The other one is gratitude that I want to share with you all. Feeling grateful is one of those things, you know, where energy goes, everything grows, you know. So what are we giving energy to? If we're only giving energy to all the bad things that are happening right now, we're just going to experience more of that. So first, like, for the simple things that we take for granted, I'm grateful that I'm alive today. I'm grateful I woke up today. I'm grateful that I can see with my eyes. A lot of people can't see. So sometimes it's really taking those little things that are not little, but that we consider little because we already have. You know, those are the things that you can start being grateful for. And then you would see how all the other things that you want in your life are also going to start coming into you, because the energy that you give is the energy that you attract, you know. So gratitude is essential for us, and it really changes your life if you practice it on a daily basis.
Thank you so much for this conversation. I have learned a lot and been validated. I've been validated today. Okay. So tell us, you have a book, you have a business. Yes. Tell us about where folks can find you, your book, and your services.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been so fun talking to you. I love talking to you. Well, my website is newpsychotherapy.com, and new with a K. My best selling book, let me put it here. Hold on. Let me show y'all.
Yes.
Well, you guys cannot see me, but you can hear me. It's Becoming a New You, also with a K. And this book is really a guide to learning how your past can inform your present. And the way that I did it was I broke it down into 3 categories. So 4 chapters are for women, 4 chapters are for men, and then the last 4 chapters are for couples. So the reason why I broke it down this way is because I noticed how many of us are not aware of all these maladaptive behaviors and where they come from. And I also took like the maladaptive behaviors that I see the most in my practice to help people really start having a tool to be able to like identify what it is that's going on for them. And also it's full of journal prompts and also tools on how to, you know, rewire some of those behaviors and thoughts.
So where do I order it from your website?
I also have kiaraluna.com, and you can also order it on Amazon. Okay. Yeah, so you can find me also on IG, Mrs. Kiaraluna.com. Not .com. Wow. Mrs. Kiaraluna. That's my IG, and that's where you guys can find me. So if you need to talk to me, if you have questions, if you anything, I'm your girl. Email me at kiara@noyoupsychotherapy.com, or you can just go to my website and contact me through there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for this conversation.
Of course, Winnie. Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to listen to past episodes and to subscribe. Also, feel free to leave me a message. I want to know what you think about this show. So you can do that by leaving a review, or you can do that by sending me an email at imposterixpodcast@gmail.com. This podcast is for me, and this podcast is for you. And I hope that you're leaving this podcast and this experience feeling validated, because that's the goal. Be validated. Until next time.